Webb.
Here.
Chris Daddy.
Here.
Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Dennis Ryu.
Here.
Chuck Neff.
Here.
Jeff Solon.
Here.
Sean Kimball.
Here.
Very good. And
Justin and Jeff. Right? And Vin. Yes.
you got it.
All right.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jeff D'Onofrio's across the hall. He'll come in a little bit later.
Okay.
All righty. Sarah, any
No correspondence.
correspondence? Okay, and we have nobody here for public comments. Approval of meeting minutes, April 12th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Sure.
Sure. What would that motion be? To approve the minutes of April 12th, 2023. Dennis, a second?
Second.
Greg, any comments? If not, then all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Jeff and Sean, am I putting you down as approval?
Approved. Sure, approved. Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. Minutes of April 13th. Do I have a motion?
Yep.
Second?
I'll say.
Dennis?
That's fine.
All right,
Yeah.
any discussion or comments? No, if not, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Sean, Jeff? Yes, okay. Oh, okay.
Yes, I.
Jeff has given us the finger there. All right.
Wait a second.
Actually, I submitted invoices. We have no invoices. Do you have anything coming our way, Vince?
Just two invoices for ads, that's it.
Okay, and that's it?
That's all, we haven't gotten any.
Yeah. And
any
Sean,
other bills yet.
we had that one invoice from December, I guess it was, for Mike's time, but I haven't seen anything since then. Do we?
Yeah, I'll follow up with Noel. I haven't seen anything
Okay,
across my desk yet, but
All right.
we'll follow up tomorrow.
okay.
You hit the school building committee?
Yes.
Okay.
All righty, chairman's report. Couple of things. Are you able to put that little video up I wanted to show? We are going to our, well, I could do either one. There you go. We'll do this one. That should be a PowerPoint, but I don't see
Yeah.
it. Okay. I asked Arcadis, as I had done with Tecton, to give us a little video to show to the town council, so I just wanted to show it to you. It's very short, just a few slides so that they get a feel for who Arcadis is. So this is the slideshow. You can move through it, Ben.
Okay.
A little bit about the company and its size. The people that will be part of the team that we're working with. Some of the projects that they've worked on. A little bit about their focus on schools and some of the work that they've done recently. And that's it. I think that's the last slide, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, beautiful. Along those same lines, as you'll recall, there were a couple questions that were raised initially on Arcadis's price that they had given us. I had talked to their, I guess CEO he is, executive, and got back to me just today. And they were able to take a hard look and a sharp pencil and went through and were able to eliminate $57,000 from, what was it? How much?
57?
$56,344.
Wow.
The exact amount.
That's
Big
pretty
cars.
So I don't know if you
Handsome
want to,
payment.
you can put that up there, but that was the other page that I had. There you go. So that's the original quote, and then they had a quote, obviously, of both if both schools were awarded, and then a revision that was sent to me today.
That's great.
So the total savings from if they did the two projects separately to now their new revised price is $154,000. But from the both schools awarded price they had given us originally to the revision that he sent me today was a reduction of $56,344. So quite pleased.
Nice work.
Yeah, thank you.
Your chairman's pay.
I don't think I get to keep any of that. So that's all I had on chairman's report. Architect's report. Gentlemen,
Okay, great. Wonderful to see all of you tonight. Since we last met, we have conducted 2 working group sessions. And it was, in broad summary, it was really a tale of 2 working groups meetings. Our first meeting was our kickoff meeting. It was on Thursday, where we had introductions and a broad general discussion of project goals and vision. We also went over the meeting schedule, our working group meeting schedule, which was, I think, an eye-opener for some of the folks that were on the meeting, but everyone was fully committed for the remainder of the meetings. Our meeting this past Tuesday was our educational specification review. And I would say in general, we had a very lively discussion. A lot of discussion about special education and resource rooms that we're going to work to validate balance with the educational specification. We did get Chris's comments, a lot of them related to building systems. We'll certainly, we have a meeting scheduled for discussion of sustainable strategies, building systems, et cetera. That will be the time that we can engage those comments.
Also, when we get the commissioning, there'll be a kind of a basis of the design that we'll talk about those.
I just want to clean up the tunnel.
Yeah, no,
Check that box in my head and
Yeah.
somebody will ask those questions. I know they're going to ask when you hand it off to the engineers anyway. So.
absolutely. No, they were great. Yeah.
So in your packet tonight is an even fresher update to our project work and meeting schedule. And what we've started to do is populate some of the NGSBC meetings to dovetail with some of the work that we're going over in our working group sessions. So the idea is that we report back findings, we introduce any issues or topics that come up in our working group session. So we started to populate that. We also have dates. Yes.
What day was this kickoff?
Last Thursday, April 20th.
And then the one after that was
Tuesday.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have established dates for our think tank sessions at Chapman and Norton. Those are scheduled for Tuesday, May 30th and Thursday, June 1st. So that's really kind of our first foray into the kind of broader community discussion.
board of that update, do you need committee members at that? Or is that something that you would just come in that evening and
Yeah,
talk to the board?
we're certainly comfortable. If you would like to introduce us, or that's probably a good time to introduce the entire project team. I know you guys have CM selection on your agenda tonight. We can lead that discussion in terms of the overall update to the BOE.
So that's the 18th.
Yes. So site surveys are continuing to be ongoing. Norton should be wrapping up in the next week or so. North End survey will be beginning shortly thereafter, first half of May. We have also included in your packet meeting minutes from our last Thursday meeting, as well as a presentation or a slide deck that we went over in part at our meeting this week. There was frankly so much discussion that we weren't able to get to the bulk of the presentation. Although many of the slides deal with 21st century learning environments, kind of a thought starter for things when we get into visioning. So a lot of it will be a duplication or ground that we will re-review during that working group meeting.
When you say there was so much discussion that you weren't able to, nothing is taking away from what you're planning, right?
No, sometimes there are working group meetings where you're trying to pull conversation out of the group. Sometimes there are working group meetings where we can't stop the group from bringing up new topics or continuing to reinforce some of their discussions or areas of concern. This last Tuesday was one of the latter examples. I mean, the conversation was free flowing. It was engaging. Everybody was really into the discussion about the educational curriculum and the educational spaces.
So we're walking through the specs. The meeting was supposed to start it did start at 3. It's supposed to end by 4:30. I left at 5 and it was still going on because I had to get to our interviews on Tuesday night. And I think if you saw Marlene, came walking in at about 5:45 or so and said they were just finished. But basically what happened is as you went through the specs, there were a lot of discussion about the size of spaces, the way that they need to be set up, the organization of them, and particularly as it related to some of the special ed programs. And then a lot of the preschool took place after I left. They had just got to that piece. But a lot of input from the principals and from some of the other staff members that were on the committees. One of the points that Vince made, because obviously whenever you go through the specs, is I'd like this to be bigger, I'd like to have more. And, Vince made the point of, we're working within certain constraints. If we want to get reimbursement, we have to keep within the state standards. And therefore, you may say, gee, wouldn't it be nice to have, whatever, 10,000 square foot, such and such. But any square footage that you add has got to come from someplace else. So keep that in mind as you put ideas out there.
Yeah, and it's a fine line to walk because you want people to provide their input, but everybody needs to understand there's going to be trade-off decisions that ultimately get made as we go through it. And it's an iterative process. So I thought it was a great first shot. I think there's some more discussion that'll come out.
Yeah, it's very productive.
It's a spirited group, so they're not going to be too quiet.
No, it was a great meeting. What is relevant in the presentation packet is we've started to graphically represent the program areas just in simple boxes as they relate to the sizes identified in the educational specifications. So the areas, so I know that these slides are small. We can certainly send the PDF of the slide deck. But the chart to the left of each slide is the educational spec. Nobody's going to be able to read that, so don't feel bad. The areas in green, light blue, and dark blue are the classroom spaces. The areas all the way to the right of each diagram are either the specials or the support spaces. The area that's in the middle, the big rectangle, is our gross up factor. So what that means is areas like toilet rooms, hallways, stairways, widths of walls, etc. So what did you say?
It's a mechanical and electrical.
Right. Yes.
I have to be said.
As
I
small as possible.
Yes.
So we felt that this was a pretty good starter just to get people's heads in the game in terms of what these spaces mean in relation to one another, and to also start discussing the adjacencies, like what spaces need to be next to or critical to be in relationship to the other spaces. And then we have just a quick site diagram of how big all of those spaces are on the respective sites.
So these squares represent the full square footage. In other words, if you make one larger, you have to make one smaller.
Yes,
Okay, so there's no leeway left.
right.
That's correct. Yeah. And, and as we move through the schematic design, the design plans will be coordinated, color coded to these so that we can track all of this, so it'll be consistent,
great.
so.
You're gonna talk about the cafeteria, which I see is on the next page.
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that we brought up in terms of the sizes identified in the educational specification versus what the state standard is. So this is something that we're going to need to validate as we go through our schematic layouts. The size is identified relative to the student body represented in each school is smaller by an order of magnitude of between 1,800 square feet and between 1,000 square feet and 1,800 square feet. So it's based on a specific calculation that the state prescribes, which is total student body divided by 3 lunch waves times 17.5 square feet per student. So
It's a benchmark. It doesn't absolutely have to be that, but we're familiar with kind of the ed spec and who wrote it, and we just want to identify these things and talk about them now. So
And our ed specs call for 5 lunch waves, right?
yes.
And schools presently have 7.
Mhm.
So they go from brunch to evening tea.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's supper, right?
Uh,
Yeah, they go from like 10:30 to
To
1:30.
1:30 or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Have these numbers changed at all since COVID? Like, or is it because they're trying to spread out more, or has it just always been?
That
It's-
standard's
it's
been around
always-
a while.
okay.
Yeah.
During COVID, districts were using any space that they could find for auxiliary
That's right.
cafeterias.
The
We had-
desks and
we had
hallways.
tents up, during the fall and the spring
Yeah.
and pushed outside and,
But I know
Do-
when we
do
went
what
out
we
to
need to
visit
do.
some of the new schools, I was a
Far
little
apart.
surprised at how small some of the new cafeterias were. For instance, the school up in Tallinn that we saw had a nice big gym that, but the cafeteria itself was a fairly narrow room. It had all those tables that were straight. Um, So I think, we're gonna wanna make sure, but again, the issue is whatever square footage you add into the caf, it's gotta come from someplace else. That'll be their,
Yeah,
there's the deal.
that's our bailiwick. And it's always a negotiation, how much how much your gross up is in your building. Can you find some economy with some of the shared spaces versus some of the public spaces or corridors that you may be able to borrow from that gross factor. So it's all part of and that's why identifying the adjacencies are so important, because you may be able to find some of that economy in the layouts. So, any other questions? I think that concludes the report. I'll just say, our next steps continue to be scheduling the prep session with the state. We've kind of been waiting for your last leg of the team.
Have you been in contact with the state yet?
Aside from the initial verification of who our PM is, that's a good reminder for me to call Barbara and start getting on our calendar for the prep. We'll also be preparing for our next working group meeting, which is a visioning session. It's 2 weeks. It's 2 Tuesdays from now, and also start preparing for these think tank sessions.
So you say you didn't get through the working group last time. You'll pick up like where you left off there and then push through the rest, or how do you make that up?
Well, the remaining parts of the slide deck kind of go hand in hand when we start talking about visioning, and we always start with the old classroom arrangement that we all are familiar with, right? We call it the cell and the bell. Probably pretty much everybody remembers being in a class like this growing up. So really the rest of it are just materials identifying what's possible, so that what we really want to encourage in these early sessions is blue sky thinking. We want people to get out of their familiar, well, I have this space and it's divided up 3 ways, therefore that's what I need in the new building. We really want them to kind of clear that cache and start thinking about what's possible. So that's what the remainder of these slides are. So we'll keep circling back to some of these things when we start talking about precedents and giving examples of what, this space may be drawn in 2 dimensions here in a floor plan, but really this is the image that we're thinking about in terms of the mood or the feeling.
But to answer your question, we did get through all of the educational components at that meeting, and this is kind of their homework, if you will, to prep themselves for that next vision session, so.
Got it.
Now, I hear you don't have meetings like with planning and zoning, wetlands, anything like that. Those,
Not yet. In our overall schedule, we do. We typically, we need to get further along into like the design development. So if you look back to the original schedule, graphic schedule that had shown, there was a line item that discussed permitting. And that's typically after we know where the building is, what it looks like, shape, and the civil engineers and landscape architects typically around 80 or 90% through their way. So because you have to be somewhat finalized when you go into for planning and zoning. So, but that is on this schedule and that is tracked. And if you look through this updated, you'll see it. You'll see some meeting dates for the building committee where we're going to talk about updates to that submission. So, yep. Good question.
any other questions or comments?
Just a comment from me, and Chuck dovetailed on what I was thinking. I guess what I want to know is when you come in here and you talk about these meetings, I'm hearing that the question I asked, well, were you able to get what you needed? Because you said there was a lot of discussion. I'm looking at it strictly from this engineering, 1 + 1 = 2. You've got 10 things that you need to get done and you only got 8. Now you go to the next meeting, you have 10 things plus the other 2 and you only get 6. It may not be so linear. It may be more conceptual, whereas maybe we're trying to break through and we're getting it. If you just let us know, just so that we know we were there, it went off tangent and everything, but it was great and we accomplished everything we need, or just so that you're not getting backlogged, or if you need maybe somebody from the town to go as a moderator to stop the talking so that you can get to the next topic.
So we never want to stop the talking because that we want to have that engagement, and it's our job to make sure that we're curating the discussion. To answer your direct question, we got everything that we needed from the educational specification meeting. We went through in detail both buildings. Frankly, your ed specs are exactly similar for the K to 6 component for both schools. Sorry. And the early childhood is what is unique for the
Yeah, the Darcy program is the piece that's different in the North School. So it was, we talked about basically both schools at once because, medias were similar, classrooms were similar. So we got what we needed, we're on track, and I think it was great dialogue. So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that our side is getting you what you need and not delaying it and going off on tangents like we gotta do here in these meetings.
Yeah.
We'll speak up.
So we have a couple of open dates towards the end of the calendar year that are float in case we need to stay to the bi-weekly schedule, but bump one of the ones. But we also have the dexterity, I think, to schedule a follow-up meeting in the interim week between the 2 meetings. If we only got halfway through the ed spec, we would have called a timeout and said, look, we really need to regroup. And this conversation should happen before our next group meeting.
Thanks.
Because you will on occasion get people that are very focused on some issue you don't want to let go. But Vince, was the one who was kind of coordinating the meeting. I know Jeff Solon was usually in on it, or Lena Silva was Solano, thank you. The assistant superintendent. So there were people there to make sure that it stayed focused. Anything else? All right, great. All righty,
Thanks, guys.
discussion and possible selection of CM at risk. Where we are at right now, we did interviews on Tuesday and Wednesday. You may want to sit tight for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Tuesday and Wednesday, interviewed 3 different firms. As we have done in the past, we had gone through an RFQ and an RFP process, read those documents, checked references. Each committee member evaluated based on some predetermined criteria, and that accounted for 65% of the evaluation of the 3 firms that came in for interviews. We then went into public session, opened up all of the price proposals, cost proposals. Based on that, inputted that information, that was 35%. And the result was that O&G came out as the number 1 firm for each school individually if we did that, or for both schools if we gave out the contract to both schools.
They were deemed the best value.
They were deemed the best value.
The price and the qualifications.
Okay.
That was after vetting through the pricing and sorting through the spider web of figuring out what was what.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now. I will open it up for conversation, and see if we feel that we're ready to make a decision.
Are we clear on, I know the 3 firms submitted their numbers in different formats and breakdowns and whatnot. Are we clear on what's what? I know there was some discussion last evening about that, where it's clear what the actual final is.
I believe so. I mean, Jeff, I know you had some questions regarding some of the bonding numbers and some things like that. But
Well, each of the 3 firms that submitted proposals provided what their rate is for payment and performance bonds, as well as CGL, commercial general liability insurance. One of the respondents indicated in a note in their proposal that they did not include bond premium or insurance premium in their general conditions or general requirements. The other 2 didn't have that note, but on the matrix that accompanies the fee proposal, the box that's checked for bonds is CM pre-con fee, and I don't think anybody carried it. They all have the rates in terms of what they're gonna bill as part of the guaranteed maximum price for bonds and insurance, but I don't think any of the numbers are reflected, the actual premium numbers are reflected in anybody's pre-con fee. The numbers would be higher.
so the numbers that we're looking at are apples to apples.
They are apples to apples, and, we took the CM fee for each of the firms on the standalone bids and on the combined bids, and we used the same assumed construction cost, 142 million and change, hard cost number, so that we can have an apples to apples comparison of what the fee would be.
What delta is?
O&G for both schools totaled $6,268,609. Gilbane, $5,338,550. Downs was $7,167,205. Now then, you have the percentage figures that are in there. So you have to take what, those percentage figures, And those were 1.45 for Downs, 1.55 for ONG, 1.95 for Gilbane. And therefore, that changed that delta quite a bit. So, I put together a little spreadsheet that I'm looking at here. Based on the projected costs of the building, that changed it to $8,436,000 for ONG, $8,065,000 for Gilbane, $9,195,000 for Downs. That's for both, and obviously there's different numbers if you were just looking at North End.
So
So there's
ONG's in the middle then.
So ONG's in the middle
Price.
at this point.
Closer to Gilbane than Downs.
Yeah. Thanks.
But the overall scores were not close.
Now, the overall score, I don't think I gave you that, but
Correct. In terms of the best value scores, ONG for both schools, based on our criteria, was 93.28. The next closest was Gilbane at 82.13. And then Downs was just provided at 81.05.
so that's where, we do our rating and plug that into the 65%. And so even though there's a difference in the price, that wasn't enough to even come close to overcoming the difference.
Well, those are the overall ratings after the price.
Correct.
That's after the
Yeah.
price, that's right.
Right.
And I'm sorry, the final numbers that we used in the best value calculation, does it include an estimate of the cost for the bonding?
No.
No, okay, so ONG has the lowest bonding cost of the three as well.
They have a lower per $1,000 of bond premium.
Yeah.
It's like 30 cents per $1,000 lower than Gilbane. And they have a lower insurance premium cost. It's like $1.40 per $1,000 or something.
They're also much lower on the CM fee.
Yeah,
which
the
would be
fee,
based
the
on
fee,
dollar.
the fee's the bigger deal because if you figure a reasonable amount of change orders, let's say 2% on $142 million worth of work, you figure like $3 million worth of change orders. So if the fees difference is 0.5%,
That's a lot.
it's like,
Yeah.
a little bit of money.
Strictly on the qualification criteria, ONG was 59.66 out of 65. Gilbane was 47.13 out of the 65. And Downs was actually higher than that at 50.3. So
I think what impressed me the most with ONG was when they started talking about how they have an award-winning program and how they bring children into construction, the kind of programs and activities that they create. And they have the pictures, they showed the pictures, whereas some of the other firms, they spoke on it, but they put up so many pictures. And it was the people that were right in front of us, right? I mean, that really was very impactful for me.
I personally feel like the best value numbers match, I feel like they make sense and they match my feelings on it.
Are we ready for a motion, or you want to have further conversation, or you want to hold off for a bit? Any of those are possible.
I was coming into this meeting, wasn't 100% sure if the numbers were 100% understood. I'm not an accountant, and I never professed to be, so I'm trusting those and our attorney to go through. And I wasn't sure if we were going to need more time or not, but I asked the question, and I think we got a good answer. It seems pretty solid. It seems like we have a good understanding of that. So I'm set to, with my feelings, and to stick with my vote as to what we have.
Yep. That's
Can I ask them what they think about ONG?
On camera, they're not going to say anything negative about any
Well,
firm,
Let me ask
but you can ask them.
Are you comfortable with ONG as a CM at risk?
I think all three that you shortlisted are very qualified, and all of them will do a good job for your town.
Very
Um,
politically correct.
And we've worked with all of them, so, and I think we've been consistent with this before. It's the team that you have and the commitment of the team to the rest of the entire team. And that's the important piece in pulling off a successful project, so.
And I would have to say, you know, as we've gone through this process with architects, with owners, reps, and now with CM, by the time we've gotten to the RFP process and doing the interviews, we've had really good people. And unfortunately, in the end, only one can be chosen, but it's not like, you know, we're looking and saying, you know, oh my God, there's companies that we wouldn't want to deal with. You know, we've had, you know, good companies that have come in. They've brought in wonderful teams of people with great ideas. But in the end, this group has to judge who do they think is the best fit for us. And that's where the scoring, which is done individually. We would talk to each other about how we were going to score.
Anonymously.
Yeah, it's done anonymously, individually on the computer, and came out very strongly in favor of one particular company. Any other comments? If not, do we want to make a motion?
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yeah, I move to select and award a contract subject to the approval of the Cheshire Town Council to ONG Industries as the CM at risk for Norton Elementary School construction project as detailed in the submitted fee proposal in response to RFP number 2223-23.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dennis. Discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Jeff
Aye.
and Sean?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Very good.
Chuck?
I also move to select and award a contract subject to the approval of the Cheshire Town Council to ONG Industries as the CM at risk for the new North End Elementary School construction project as detailed in the submitted fee proposal in response to RFP number 2223-24.
I will second that.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. All right, very good. Do we have any items for future agendas at this point? We do not. Our next meeting is in 2 weeks. Gentlemen, I know you came in a little bit, yes, sir.
One thing we should put down, one thing we should put on for the future agenda.
Yeah.
Hate to do this to you. Next procurements.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah, we got a bunch of additional procurements we need to do.
I'm done.
My suggestion is, once we have the council approving the awards to Arcadis and ONG, then we'll have our three professionals lined up and we'll talk about what they would like to see in terms of the schedule. Do they want the commissioning agent next? You know, that kind of thing.
Okay. Very
And
good.
I don't think we need to go get a special inspector or a testing lab yet, but you know,
Sorry, commissioning agent is critical
yeah.
for some of the Connecticut high-performance building requirements early in the design. One of the requirements is a kickoff meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'd like to see happen is have consensus and we can stick those procurements into our master schedule.
If you have any documentation, any materials, send that along and we'll put that on the next agenda, which is the 11th, I think, of May.
April's over.
Hmm?
I can't believe April is over.
April is over. We're done. We're
That's
done.
it.
The second meeting of May, which is the 22nd, I'm not going to be here, or 25th, I'm sorry. The 25th, I'm not going to be
Yeah,
here,
I'll be missing those two.
and Greg's not going to be here. As the third in line,
Get to share.
you get to share the meeting.
Yeah.
I think, I will try to sign in for that one. I'll be in California. You'll be in Israel.
Israel for the first, Greece for the second.
Okay.
That's great.
So I don't know whether you're gonna sign in or not. But anyway, so, you know,
I won't be here on the 11th.
you won't be here on the 11th, okay. I don't see the 11th as having a huge agenda, but we'll see where we go from here. Gentlemen, you came a little bit later and we had already done public comments, but I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say, so.
But just to introduce myself and my colleague, I'm Miguel Fuentes. I'm one of the reps for the Carpenters Union. I'm actually in charge of some of the business development statewide. I'm the Cheshire resident and a Ram family member. So my kid plays football and wrestling. And just three great choices. I'm impressed with the selection process. ONG will do you fine.
Yeah.
The next phase, selecting subs, very important that you pick the right ones. We'd love to be able to, participate, weigh in, or give some counsel or advice if you need it.
Yeah, the CM will be putting out packages soon, I hope, but it'll be a while.
We'll make sure you have coverage and plenty of manpower. In terms of our local apprentices, we have a bunch on the bench. We're ready to go, and just let the Caner Tech and also Wilcox Tech. We're working with them doing the work-based learning program. So it'd be great to plug some of them kids in and start their career here at home.
Wonderful.
If we can do anything to be helpful, by all means, I'll leave you.
Well, thank you for coming.
And I'm Michael Robinson. I'm the agent that covers the area, but he's the resident, so I'm letting him do the talking.
He's a good man.
You're not a Ram person.
I am today.
Oh, okay. Everyone is today. Thank you very much, guys. Any last minute things? If not, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
I do. Chris, seconded?
Yep, second.
Right. All those in favor?
Okay.
All right, we are adjourned.
Yeah,
Thank you all very
very good.
much.
Thank you.
Yes.